Hello and welcome back to Conan Exiles Age of Heroes. And yes, I know what you're going to say. How have you got a blacksmith to sit on a bench when they're normally assigned to a station, and why is she now moving? And why was she eating? What mod are you using? Well, my answer to that is I'm not using a mod, because we're not on PC, we are on console. And on PlayStation we don't get mods. But in this video, I'll show you how and why these people are now wandering around. So stick with me and we'll take a dive into it. So as you can see behind me here, we're at our base that you've seen in videos and streams before, but as you may notice there are people walking around, and we've just got this little fountain and seating area set up for them. And these are not archers or fighters or dancers, these are your crafters, or as one or two of these are that you can see, priests from the different religions. And in the Age of Heroes, the big new feature for Conan Exiles is called living settlements, which basically turns your crafter people, shall we say, from inventory items that you had to just knock out, turn upon the wheel just like anybody else, and then if you had a blacksmith, for example, walk up to a blacksmith bench and then place them into a slot on the bench, and then that person would literally stay at that bench until you remove them from it again. However, with living settlements, this is totally different now. There are many different features to this. One of the big parts of it is they now wander around, but there's also benefits to this, that even if they're away from the bench, you can still receive their benefits that they give. So for example, a bladesmith on a blacksmith bench will still give you the damage bonus if they're within range, even though they're wandering around or they might be sat out here. I'll still get that benefit on the bench. Same with a cook, alchemist, all of them, even your priests, so long as where they're sat out here isn't too far away from the altar, you'll still see them shown on there. And we'll take a look around inside in just a second and show you the living side of the base, the way it's working, how people are moving around. And I'll also show you on the benches how it's now different, that you can get the bonuses still from your different crafters. And the beauty of this is also if you have multiple of a bench, so if you have two blacksmith benches for example, you don't necessarily need two bladesmiths now if you had two, because one will give you the bonus from each bench. So you can have two blacksmith benches with one bladesmith and still get the benefit, which we'll take a look at. But one of the cool things with this, as I say, is your crafters can now wander around, and if they've got seats they can go and sit on, they will go and either sit and relax, or they'll sit and do an eating animation just as if they're eating some food, or they'll sit and, as I've noticed some doing here with this water fountain, they'll pull out a book and sit and read, or they'll stand up by the water fountain and look as if they're admiring it, which is another cool feature. And this also applies to things like a fireplace or a campfire, anything that's interactable, or an armor display stand, as you'll see in a second. They will stand and admire them, which is essentially what is described in the update as fulfilling their needs. So in between working at a station, they'll work on that station for so long and then they'll wander off and either go and admire something, or they'll have a seat somewhere, or as I'll show you in a moment, they'll go and have a sleep on a bed if you've got beds available for them. So here we go, we're inside now, and we've got a perfect example behind me here of why you would only need one smelter. For example, now we've got an alchemist there working away on the fireball cauldron as well. She will also interact with this dyer's bench. So if we take a look here, as you can see, the slot on the top left that said thrall before has now gone, but you can see on the right hand side that this bench has an alchemist within range, which just gives you the extra bonuses at the top there. But as we'll see, if we come over here, you can interact with our alchemist and we can either give them a weapon or take it off them. I've chosen to give her a weapon just because she wanders outside, and although she's wearing the leather apron that you'll normally see a lot of the crafters in, as is our smelter, I've given them some smarter trousers and some boots to wear. And there you go, as you can see now, she's now wandering off again. She's done a bit of work, so she's off outside. So now if we use our smelter as an example, again you can see they have an inventory just like a fighter, an archer or an entertainer. So I've basically given them the Sumerian steel armour and just transmogged it with the sorcery bench to make it have a different appearance. And just like everybody else, they do have the chance to level up. They have percentage chances to level up in each stat, and each person comes with the different bonuses. So Dea Lead Drinker, who is a smelter, is an agility based person, and she has a decent health pool as well, but these aren't really designed for combat, certainly not in a PvE situation. It won't really happen. PvP may be a bit different. You may want to obviously level them up and give them good armour. If you have people raiding your base, you might want your crafters to fight for you, but I don't do PvP, so I don't really understand how all that would work. But in a PvE scenario, just done this to give them a bit of protection because they wander about outside in case there's any scorpions or anything else wandering around. But if we interact with the furnace, as you can see there, shows us we've got Dea Lead Drinker and she's working on this one. However, there's nobody working on this one. Now before, if we didn't have anyone working on this one, we'd have the blank square on the left. But as we can see there, we still have the benefit of Dea Lead Drinker, so the tier 4 smelter on the right hand side. So even though she's working on that one, we could still craft something in here and still get her benefit there. So then if we wander across around here, got a couple of armor display stands just set up that these guys can interact with. If you don't want them to interact with something, if you hold your interact button and then select disable thrall use, they won't interact with it. These are a couple of people who are fighters, so they're just sat here just for making it look a bit more lived in. And if we pop across to our blacksmithing room, lots of different benches here as we can see, and nobody's in here at the minute, so you think, hang on, nobody's working, you're not going to get any benefits. But if we go to our big blacksmithing bench here, we can see we're getting the benefit of 2 blacksmiths, so we can either choose from the durability blacksmith or the bladesmith. Even though they're not in here, they're probably sat at the water fountain outside again, because they seem to like doing that a lot. Or they could be downstairs having a sleep. But no matter what bench you go to, as you can see here, but now here we also get an added benefit of an armourer at this one, because we have an armourer close by. We've got their benefit as well, and I can just hear somebody's just come back into work, so I'll show you that in a second. But no matter what the bench, there you go. Can click on it, and as you can see with the 3 people again on there to get benefits from. And if I just go into first person, that's our durability one, I believe. You can just see I've given them the, for a benefit of anybody who might ask what the outfits are, it's the medium boots and the leggings of Azura, just dyed black with the white middle bit. And then obviously the leather apron for the chest piece. But then the basic blacksmith bench, once again, exactly the same thing. Benefit from 2 different blacksmiths. Even though there's nobody working on them, we still get their benefit. And if we take a quick trip downstairs, this is where we have our Job Centre Plus, as I like to call it. And again, you can see friendship table, as we like to call it. And again, even though she's not here, it has the benefit of the Taskmaster on there. And also the wheel, same thing again. So even though she's not physically here, we're still getting her benefits there. And then if we pop into our sorcery room, I wish the animation had been a little bit different for these, because it's just a bit meh that they're kind of doing what your character would do when you start up an animation, but they just kind of stand there with their arms out. Maybe they could have had them doing that and then doing some sort of a motion as if they were triggering something. So it's a little bit disappointing, but as you can see, sorcerer, so you get the sorcery bench. You don't have a sorcerer on this, so this won't ever change. Then if we pop in here, we've got our set shrine, and again, as you can see there, a set priest was a named priest who I've renamed as like one of the ones in charge around here. This is actually a set priest, but she's wearing the Hikarian or Hykarian Raider bottoms, or tasset if you want to call it that, with the Zamorian Thief boots, and then the Innkeeper's top for her top, rather than the set armour or clothing that they would normally wear. But if we interact with the altar, as you can see there, we get the benefits up at the top again, and we can see that we have a set priest within range, and obviously because she's here, but we saw her upstairs earlier as well, so as you know, she can freely wander around. And then we'll pop to the opposite side, and then I've changed this into like a little bedroom for some people, because some of the crafters that were working on this low level, well the upper level now, weren't going up to the worker's bedroom. Maybe that's too far away, so I'd put a few beds in down here, and as you can see, we've got a couple of people sleeping down here. And then into here, as you can see, there's no priest around, but if we interact with the altar again, we can see that there is still a priest giving us the benefit on there. And then we'll go back through. So as you'll see, you'll notice as you wander around your base or you're doing things, you'll see people walking around like this. They all seem to spend more time outside than they do working, to be quite honest, but there we go. The fun side is at least you still get the benefits to everything of this happening. And on this floor we can see we've got a young lady there taking a break and doing an eating animation. This doesn't use any of your food out of your fridge, so you don't have to worry with that one. It's just an animation that they do. It's a bit buggy, I think, sometimes, because she'll do that now, and then after a bit she may stand up, go to this side and sit down and do it again, or she'll go over to this table and do the same thing again, which is a bit strange, but they do for some reason. And again, armour crafting room, and as we can see there, we've got the benefit of our armourer on our saddler's workbench. Here we have our armourer working away at the tanner's table. But because we have a tanner and an armourer in this area, we get the benefit of the tanner and the armourer on the tanner's table. So again, we can select which one we want. So she's working away there. And then our big armourer's bench, once again, we've got the option of the shield right from there, which is in my opinion the best armourer you can get, certainly for armour value. And then our regular improved armourer's bench, once again, she's also available on that one. And then of course our tannery, we get the benefit of the tanner, even though she's not sat at the station, we still get the bonus of having a tanner on the station. Improved stove, we've got a lone fisherman working at this one even though she's not here. Same with this. So even though the people now aren't at the benches like you would have had to have had them before, they don't need to be. With the living settlements feature, they don't have to be at the bench to get the bonuses, but obviously they will work at the bench from time to time, and then they'll also, on a timer, eventually go off and either have a rest, or they'll go and have a sleep, or they'll eat something, or they'll go and sit and admire something outside. This is our Defari Witch Doctor, who's still got her same top on that they have from the Defari faction, just so I can identify her. But again, same bottoms and same boots. But if we interact with this, we can see in this area we've got the benefit of her because she's the one that's in range up here. So that is them. And then if we carry on upstairs, we've got another floor when we go in here. Got plenty of beds laid out. They don't use the boxes, they're just purely there for a bit of display. But as you can see, we've got somebody there, our cook, lone fisherman, taking a well-deserved sleep. He's obviously been working hard. And yes, for anyone that does own the latrine, they will actually use it as well. Or you can actually disable it if you don't want them to use it, but why would you? And it's supposedly a restroom break, shall we call it. But then you've got my quarters at the top, which has Leah Neely keeping an eye on the place. Then the nice bathtub there. Now it's obviously enabled it again because she shouldn't be coming up here. But if I go up to my seating area, Bed is the same again. I have that set to where it shows enable now. That would say disable if you didn't want people to use it, so followers or friends are not going to use my bed at least. And then you've got 2 chairs here. Where did she go? Ah, she's there. So because I've got these armor display stands here that again I've not disabled, so as you can see she's come up to admire it and have a look, see what's on them, to admire the outfits. But again, you can do it with chairs, so you disable it if you don't want friends to use it. And the same with your fireplace, or else they'll come and sit on the floor in front of the fire. So that is pretty much how it works in practical terms. So let's take a quick look now how you, once you've gained yourself a crafter, how you place them in the world and how they interact with the benches when you very first get them. Okay, so here we are in our little setup. This is just to give you a quick showcase of kind of what happens. As you can see, we've got somebody behind me here doing a new animation on the hog roast. If you have that particular fireplace, you can see they're now sitting a little stool at the side, turning the handle. And as you can tell by the armor, shall we call it, that they're wearing, which is the light armor set, you can see that this is the lone fisherman, and this is what they will come with once you've placed them down in the world. And they're interacting with that, so they will keep doing that. So this is how they will look when you find them on the little island at Sepamaru, if they've spawned, and they do spawn in male and female, so you can find those there. So you've been out, you've found yourself a crafter, you've knocked them out, you've taken them to your wheel, you've collected them off your wheel, and then they're in your inventory. So now what you do is, as you'll see, you can come to a bench and it tells me now that there is no crafter available and there's no slot for me to put them in. So what we do is, if you place your people on your Hot Wheel, you can then, as you can see, even though it shows a ghost symbol, this is for those who may not realise of why it's not working, even though you get the ghost symbol showing that you can place them, it won't allow me to do that because you can't slot them straight away. So what you have to do is place them in the world as a person, and she will, like that, wander off and straight away go to work on the armourer's bench. So if we now take a look at that, we can see that we now have an armourer working at the bench, and if I just grab her a moment and pull her off, she's just going to go straight back there again. But I could grab her from there if I wanted and ask her to go over here. Yes, they may not stay on that bench, but as you could see, I could pick her up and move her over there. She's now got stuck, but oh, figured it out. But as you can see, even though she's over there, if we interact with our Tinkerer's bench now, because we've placed an armourer in the world, we now have the benefit of an armourer. And exactly the same again, once more with the blacksmith. You can't place them directly from your hotbar onto the bench. You need to either place them and then let them go on to the bench themselves, or you can pick them up and then place them into the ghost symbol, which he just did a very clever teleporting trick and went from the blacksmithing bench to the tinkerers. But again, we now interact with that, we should be getting an extra benefit for him, but for some reason we don't get him showing up, because if you check on who you get, he's only a level 3, so that just shows you there that if you have a level 3 blacksmith, you won't have it showing up, because it's only named tier 4 crafters that will give you the certain benefits and bonuses. So even though we've got a level 3 blacksmith on here, we can only get the benefits of the tier 4 armourer because he's not a named person, whereas if we had a named blacksmith on here, then it would show up. Same with our blacksmith bench. Obviously for our blacksmithing bench, it shows us that we have an armourer available, but this is because it's his specific armourer's bench and he is a bladesmith, I believe. I think we're right with that one. The only ones with the blacksmith that you can get to show up on the tinkerer's bench are either the one with the broken shield, I believe, and the one with the little hammer symbol for durability. So that's just an example there, just to show you how this works. So if you didn't want them on your fire anymore, like your cook as well, you could pick them up, ask them to go to the stove rather, but doesn't seem to want to work on the stove for some reason. Quite happy turning the spit roast. So that is how you place your crafters in the world. And if we go to our follower list, ignore mine because it's a very big one, but as you'll see here, you'll notice now if you look down your follower list, you won't just have performers, fighters and archers showing up, or any animals that you have. You'll also start seeing armourers, tanners, carpenters, whoever else you've got will all now show up in this list as well. So they will count towards your follower list. So like on official servers, I believe, is it 80 or 85 people I think you can have. So if you had 50 before you get any crafters, bear in mind you're only going to have room for a few crafters, so it will add to your list. So just be mindful of this when you're placing people down in the world. You could end up losing some if you overpopulate. So now, because they're not an inventory item, they actually count as a person because they are physically in the world as a person. And again, as I say, you can interact with them, give them a weapon or take it off them, give them armor if you wish. You can also ask them to follow you. He's been a bit weird because he jumped down into the floor, but there we go. Now he can't figure out how to get back onto his bench, so a little bit buggy as you can see, but he thinks, you know what, I'm going to go and have a break. And as you see, he's now just going to sit there and chill with some food. But that is how it all works. You can get them to follow you as well. If you're quite close to stations in your base, you will find that they'll try and run back, but just try and get as far away from your base as quick as you can. But depending on who you get as well, will depend on how they would level up. With this particular armourer, who I'm just using as an example, she's a strength build, whereas your tier 4 cook is an agility build, so they're just going to be slightly different. If you don't really want your crafters to fight, you don't have to let them fight. You can keep them in somewhere where they're not going to be in combat, but do bear in mind they can open external doors. So if you have something outside like seating or a bonfire or whatever for them to interact with, they will wander out there and interact with those seats or that water fountain or that bonfire. If you've got things outside, if you don't have anything seating wise in an outside area, they will tend to stay inside, so you should be pretty good on that sense, but just be mindful of what you're doing. So that is how you get your crafters and place them in the world now to make them as people, to add them to your follower list, and you've also seen how it all kind of works and how they move around, and the fact that you can level them up to 20 just like a fighter if you so wish, and you can also deck them out in some better clothing. Rather than having them looking plain and boring like this, you can make them look interesting, just as you saw in my base slightly earlier. So there you have it, ladies and gents. That is a look into the living settlements feature, which was the big main feature of Age of Heroes, and certainly the main feature in chapter 1. Sorry it's taken a little while to get to this, but there were some huge issues with it when it all first came out. We had to have it disabled for a little while because it just wasn't working, and people's crafters were either teleporting to 0-0 in the map, which is up in the Highlands, or they were completely disappearing from people's lists, along with barkeeps that also disappeared. So it just really wasn't worth showing off too soon because of all the issues that there were. But hopefully it's now been fixed and things do seem to be working a lot better now, but just keep an eye on things as you go along. So I hope you found this one interesting. If you did, do me a massive favour, leave a like, leave a comment down below, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I will catch you guys in the next one. So enjoy, see you all soon, bye for now.